Shadow Show.
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 Shadowing it.
You guys are superstitious. So when I wore a dolphin cap for like the first time in my life, you guys buried me, saying, among other things, that I'm the reason that the Dolphins have stunk since that moment. I'm presently wearing headphones sent to me by the University of Miami. I don't know if Mike Ryan thinks that it's superstitious that I shouldn't be doing this, as they could easily lose against Georgia Tech.
By all means, do a sight gag when we're not on the visual medium. That's cool.
I'm not doing the sight gag for the audience. I was asking you a legitimate
If you're trying
question.
to jinx the University of Miami, how you guys doing? Because so much of this local hour over the last 6 years has been just dragging, rightfully, I guess, the University of Miami. And this year, I sincerely feel bad for God Bless Football, because their entire identity was tied up in having the victorious coach from the previous week's Miami game. And so far, there have been 0 opposing coaches, which was kind of disappointing considering what happened last week, which was what is believed to be the first ever meeting between 2 Cuban head football coaches. That was a momentous occasion that wasn't really met with any kind of fanfare.
I think we're doing what South Florida sports fans do in a spot like this. We're jumping on the bandwagon. Big fan over here.
Today is the day to do that, because
basketball season starts. Women at 11, men at 7.
Miami's 9-0. How many 9-0 teams are there? Indiana's also 9-0, right? I don't know
Oregon,
how many.
I believe.
Is Army 9-0?
Yep, Army's undefeated.
Well,
I don't know if they're
undefeated
9-0.
9-0 is different.
Miami could, again, lose any one of their remaining 3 games. I think we've already seen them play 4 or 5 times the way they will lose that game. I can't tell you how much delight I get from the fact that Cam Ward will continue, I'm assuming, well into the pros, the move of running 30 yards backwards and throwing totally against his body for his 1 interception of the game. When he did that up 39-31, it's one of the dumbest plays I've ever seen in the history of University of Miami football. And I love that he's done it like 5 times
Yeah,
this
it's not
season.
even the dumbest play that he's made this season. Certainly the one at Cal. That was just that one. The thing is, like, I see where his mind goes, and I understand why he thinks he can make any throw, because he generally can. But yeah, we gotta knock that out. It should have been a 60 burger for Manny Diaz's defense. It was a 1-point game in the 4th quarter. Miami covers the 20.5-point spread.
They are 3 of 9-0. There's 3 9-0 teams. Indiana, we were right, and Oregon and Miami. But Cam Ward is like he as great as he is. Jesse Palmer was like, you just got to accept that play. He's going to do that once a game, and he's so good that you just have to live with it.
Pat Forty wrote the following during the game. I'm sure he regrets it. Duke 28, Miami 17. Still waiting for someone to explain why the Hurricanes were 20-point favorites. Blue Devils were my lock of the week on the pod. Again, Miami won by 22 points. And the end of that game, just everything that was happening where Duke clearly fell apart, because at the half, a whole lot of people are gathered around waiting to see if Miami's now something that can be root against. We could root against it, because it's not just neutral. It's a team and a program with a past, and also it's totally fair to criticize their schedule, even though Louisville, that victory looks better now that Louisville won at Clemson.
Louisville.
The thing that's exciting is that the University of Miami has a fun and interesting team. They will lose because they cannot cover a running back out of the backfield. It's coming every time. They have no answers for it. Again and again, it results in 40-yard plays when it should not. And they kill you every time on 3rd and 7 with that shit, because you got a linebacker 7 yards behind the running back. How is it that they have not figured out how to cover this yet this season?
I don't know if they are. It's a personnel issue, too. Keiko Mauanoa is just really slow. My heart sinks every time he follows a running back in motion. That's a playbook against this Lance Guidry defense, which is make the secondary tackle in space, and they'll struggle with that. I think you've seen some improvements. I thought what was encouraging, even though that is not a good Duke offense whatsoever, and that was one of their better games, probably their second-best game of the season.
Duke made 3 professional plays. What is going on with wide receivers in football making the best catches every weekend that I've seen until the next best catch?
Someone needs to look into what happened this weekend specifically. I've never seen so many individual highlight reel plays from a football weekend in my life.
We've gone too far with gloves. Can we agree?
Duke had 3 catches in that game where I was like, oh, my God, they're playing out of their minds.
How about the individual effort from both Cam and Xavier Restrepo on that long touchdown pass? Well, they had 2 long touchdown passes, but the one where Cam escapes the pocket, does unbelievable wizardry in manipulating that pocket, also holding onto the ball way too long, and then finding a receiver. 2 receivers in the end zone. DB gets a hand to it, but Restrepo tracks the ball the entire way and catches the deflection. And Xavier Restrepo, an unlikely all-time prolific Miami Hurricanes wide receiver.
He's gotten to the point that I'm stunned when, as he did in that game, he just dropped a ball that was 30 yards downfield, perfectly thrown, for the stupidity of the Cam Ward throw against his body running 30 yards backward. He makes 10 throws a game that are clearly professional throws. Like it's not a college quarterback. You're like, oh my God, where he put that ball in that place very confidently. I saw Shedeur Sanders talking about this. He's gone from a 5th-round pick, it feels like, to a 1st-round pick because you see 10 throws a game where you're like, those are all NFL throws.
And you see a bunch of throws a game that'll gonna get it like a general manager totally fired. Totally fired. He's gonna be an unbelievable case study for these front offices because, all right, we're gonna put on the Cal tape. Really excited to see this, and it would be both the pros and the cons to drafting Cam Ward. He has certainly improved his draft status. His camp will tell you that he got a 4th-round draft grade. He could have very well been undrafted, but he looks like a first-round quarterback this year.
Can you explain this part to me? Because I remember when you were in the middle of all the NIL stuff, I remember you slow-playing the idea that toward the end there, as Cam Ward was deciding between whether he was going to go to Miami or declare pro, that there seemed to be some last moves in negotiating that made it obvious that Miami might also lose Cam Ward and then have an irrelevant season this year because whoever would have been their 2nd-best quarterback would not have been Cam Ward, and they would have lost already multiple games.
Yeah, Miami was chasing 2 quarterbacks at the time that Cam Ward was committing. It's just one of the quarterbacks didn't have eligibility, but the day that Cam Ward committed. It was the day that the Miami Dolphins played the Kansas City Chiefs in that bone-chilling playoff game last year, and that was certainly a day to remember. I'm not really sure what the pivot would have been off of Cam.
The question that I was asking you basically is, wasn't he available to everybody by the time that Miami scooped him up? Couldn't any team have gone and gotten Cam Ward at that price?
I know he was talking to Ohio State and FSU pursued him as well. And there was Miami. The main stalking horse in terms of the recruiting process for Miami was, I'm either going to go pro or I'm going to go to Miami. If you recall, he filmed the video that was on his social media declaring to go to the NFL draft, which was just a leverage play.
Chris Cody, have we lured you in yet? Billy, have we lured you into football? Are you guys...
No, I'm wondering if Xavier Restrepo went golfing or not. Because he put out there that he was trying to go golfing the next day and was asking for help. Did anyone get him a tee time?
He does that a lot.
Does he?
Yeah, he tried to get into like a PGA course in New Jersey during the bye week. Yeah.
How much does he make? Can you tell us that?
Who, Restrepo?
Yeah.
I don't know how much he makes. I don't know how much his NIL deal is for, but I wouldn't reveal it.
I feel like he could pay for his own golf round, right?
I do know that when it comes to NIL resources, decisions have to be made for players, and I don't think it broke down like. I don't know how many of you are watching SMU, but there's a lot of former Miami Hurricanes players, and there were players that are performing well for SMU that Miami essentially had to ask themselves, do we want X or do we want blank? And Miami sided with X.
I think this show, and really Dan, should become the sponsor for Xavier Restrepo's golf habit. We pay for it. Whenever he wants to golf, he has to put a little video out saying thank you to the Dan Le Batard Show, but we pay for it. You in?
Isn't he just sort of milking all he can out of his situation? Isn't he just you guys just got done saying it's going to be hard to explain to people of future generations that Restrepo is the greatest by far University of Miami record-holding receiver in the history of football in a program that has Michael Irvin and Reggie Wayne and Andre Johnson and a bunch of Hall of Famers. You cannot explain to me there is not a sane person out there that can explain to me how Restrepo is going to shatter all the receiving.
Well, he plays 5 seasons, some of them play 3.
Yeah, but he only had 1 catch. Because I was ready to come in and poo-poo it and be like, look, he had the extra COVID
No,
year,
in
blah,
2020,
blah, blah.
I think he had 1 reception.
Right, that's what I mean. But
Yeah.
it's hard to argue. He had 1 year with 1 reception. So
It's pretty tough reconciling that stat that you just said. When it comes to receptions, I believe Leonard Hankerson is sitting atop it.
What?
So, yeah, Miami, for as much talent as that they've had at the position in terms of being prolific, the greatness doesn't often match the output. So Miami's an interesting case study. But Xavier Restrepo is a really good player. Keep in mind the quarterbacks that he's done this with. Yeah, he's having an all-time great season this year with Cam Ward, but Miami hasn't been sturdy at that position during Xavier Restrepo's time here. He came in as a lowly touted recruit that might be a DB prospect. This is a guy that worked really hard and improbably now is Miami's most prolific pass catcher, with Michael Irvin on the sideline essentially being Miami's mascot.
Can I ask a rude question, just for not you on specific, just college sports in general moving forward? Because of NIL and the incentivization of certain players staying if they're probably not going to make it in the NFL, right? Are we headed into a world where school records are all going to be who? Who is this person? And it's someone that doesn't end up being a great prospect? Because the only thing preventing that from happening is players leaving to go to another school to get yards at that other school, right?
I think we're actually going to re-enter a world in which the stats are probably more reflective of someone's greatness at the school, because people used to always leave early for the NFL. And that's what, if you look at Miami's record books, that's largely to blame for why Xavier Restrepo is sitting atop it, is a lot of the greats that came through this program left.
I think Billy's on to something, though. I think you could have, I really do, I think you could have a guy who could be the leading wide receiver at 2 universities.
Wow.
How about that? Historically. Because you have guys who are 27 years old walking around college campuses. I mean,
We may be trending towards a situation where a player has his number retired for 2 different schools.
Wow. Cam Ward.
I saw that Ryan McGee put up on his Twitter account that Diego Pavia has beat now Hugh Freeze 3 different times, 3 different seasons, each of them playing for different people when they beat them. So you got New Mexico State over Liberty, New Mexico State over Auburn, and Vandy over Auburn. 3 different times. He's just chasing Hugh Freeze around.
He has his number.
Did you see what happened? There was a viral post from a Vanderbilt linebacker who played out of his mind against Auburn. He put out a screen cap of a text message with the caption, "Merry Christmas." He was recruited by Auburn, and they pulled his offer on Christmas Day last year, saying, we're not going to actually sign a linebacker this class. And so he stewed on that for about a year, dominated the game against Auburn, and puts out Merry Christmas with the screen cap evidence that they cut him.
Billy, were you moved by the all-Cuban coaching matchup, Manny Diaz against Mario Cristobal, at the center of a disappointing crowd for a 9-0 team and afternoon football? I was bummed out how that looked on television, just because I'd like people to treat this as if it's one of the best teams in the country locally. And I understand that you're not going to get 80,000 for a noon game against an opponent like Duke. But this is one of the best teams in the country, Stugotz. And it's the most interesting one. It's the most fun because they'll allow 5 touchdowns and they'll score 7.
You were disappointed in the crowd. You should expect that kind of crowd, right? I mean, I understand what you're saying. You want it to look better. You want to be proud of the university, but that's kind of the standard crowd for a Canes-Duke game at noon.
I'm just saying
It's
that
certainly not the standard crowd for a Canes-Duke game at noon. The standard is well worse what we saw. That was akin to 2017 after Miami beat Virginia. They had a nice crowd around 60,000. The Hard Rock Stadium's, we've done this before. It's a difficult stadium to track because if you get a crowd for 60,000, most college venues, you're happy with that. Miami's not this big-time college football program that can fill the 100-seat stadium the way that they can in Ann Arbor.
This is also not a Canes problem. Check in at a Dolphins game, the first series of a drive of the game. Check in on the Heat, the first quarter. Like, we just stink at showing up on time. Third quarter, when the game's getting going, it's going to look fine in there. But we just stink in the first quarter, all right? It's just who we are. Accept it.
Yeah, I think it could be a valid criticism in retrospect if you're applying the context of this team deserves more support. But I actually saw that crowd and I said, this is pretty good for Miami Duke at noon, no matter Miami's record.
I was not moved to answer that previous question. I did think it would be. Honestly, there was at halftime. It was like, man, Manny Diaz ruining this season would be pretty funny, right? Like, all things considered. If Manny's the guy and then this somehow leads to, like, what happens at UM sometimes where, like, you lose one and then it gets sloppy and then, like, things start getting out of control. If Manny were to kind of, like, derail the potential playoff run, it would have been funny.
It would have been really disheartening for Manny Diaz year 1 to beat Mario Cristobal year 3. Yeah. No doubt. That would have been difficult. Almost conceded 60.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You can't go out, man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Stugotz and Billy are working hard. They are crawling all over football. They are looking in all the crevices. When Monday morning arrives and you want your NFL coverage, God Bless Football has you covered. And also, God Bless Football is going to end up very soon flying to Arizona, landing in Arizona, sponsored by Smirnoff, and they're going to do, during a football Sunday, they're going to do an Arizona watch party. Before we get to telling people what is on God Bless Football, though, Stugotz, which you've already done, how excited are you to do in Arizona what you just did in Chicago?
I'm very excited because this game has actually turned into a big game. It is Jets. It is Cardinals. The Cardinals are good, and the Jets are right back in the playoff hunt. I mean,
Kyler Murray is fun to watch and says he's most comfortable at the quarterback position, that he's never been this comfortable. And it's just so fun to watch when those guys are comfortable back there.
You mentioned Arizona, Dan. You could join us from the DraftKings Sportsbook at TPC Scottsdale. Jets Cardinals kickoff 2:25 local time, and we're also going to be on YouTube if you're wondering, 21 and older because it's a sportsbook. Some people are saying, hey, what should we expect when we're out there? Should I go? Is it worth the drive? Here's what you should expect. If you're not from there and you want to watch on YouTube, you don't want to fly for 5 hours or whatever, we're going to be on YouTube. You can enjoy the show there. If you're there in person, we're going to be doing the show, to my understanding, but primarily for YouTube, but we're going to have breaks. We're going to be talking. We're going to be interacting with the fans, shaking some hands, kissing some babies. Just hang out with us. You know what I mean? A good time will be had by all. And I'll tell you this. Stugotz is saying that he's excited about it. And you ask, is this going to be similar to the situation in Chicago? This is all presented by Smirnoff, by the way, the world's number one vodka.
I mentioned that already.
Yeah. So you were asking, is this going to be similar to Chicago? I will say it is not in this sense. The Jets will be playing, and Stugotz is going to be on edge most of the time. Mike Ye will be there as well, on edge. And if the Jets lose, I imagine they're going to be in Jets garb, I would think, right? So I said, you know what? We need to make an executive decision. We're not going to be flying to Scottsdale, Arizona, just to be having a Jets watch party. So I went on and I bought myself some Cardinals gear, and it's supposed to be arriving tonight by 7 p.m., and I will be there. Bear down, Billy. Maybe no more because the Bears kind of suck right now. And I may be flying high with the Cardinals come Sunday. So you can come join us and root on the Cards or root on the Jets or root against Stugotz or whatever you want to do.
I want to talk some NFL with you guys and something that I've not seen in football, which I saw during the Bills-Dolphins game. And I think we can declare that a hammer and a nail do not have a rivalry. Every time Buffalo and the Dolphins play in Buffalo, Miami loses. It doesn't matter who their players are. If Josh Allen and McDermott are the coach, they go to Buffalo and they lose a variety of different ridiculous ways. This time with a 61-yard field goal. This time with just an absurd play that basically Josh Allen is the only guy in the league allowed to make, which is just dumb running around in the backfield and then flipping it to a guy totally recklessly in the end zone and it being a touchdown.
Josh Allen is 13-2 career versus the Dolphins.
And I can't remember the two losses. And
The heat stroke game.
And yeah. That one where he threw out his arm because they were playing in the hottest game ever played in
They
Miami.
ran out of time. Ken Dorsey threw the thing
Yeah.
at the camera.
It's
A fun game. But they were about to win that game, too.
The thing that I have not seen, though, and I couldn't believe yesterday, and it's just so telling with where we are, as the Dolphins fall, Stugotz, what are they now? 3.5 games, 4.5 games, halfway through the season. The Bills are going to clinch the division by Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to clinch the division. But in the middle of 4th and 4, desperate moment, Tua's running toward the goal line. He takes off through the middle of the field, and I think it was Kevin Harlan, shouts, uh-oh.
Yeah, yep. I told Billy during God Bless Football, it's the greatest. It really is. It's one of the greatest calls in broadcasting history because he captured what we were all thinking at home. I mean, he did.
I just can't believe we're watching football that way. Do you realize what a startling difference that is between now and 10 years ago when we were denying that concussions were that bad? We're all watching someone, and it's like someone's rolling an egg on the field. And it's like, be careful. We don't know what's going to break here. Like we're trying to hide. And he was great yesterday.
He was great, yes.
The Dolphins can't play a lot better than that, and they still lose on a 61-yard field goal, 25 of 28, where they're going down, and every time they have the ball, except 2, they're scoring. Like, I don't know what more you would want from them. And then
play defense. Jeez
okay,
Louise.
Go for
Back
2.
weeks.
I mean, how about that? Yeah.
Do I miss Fangio? Maybe.
Also crushing turnovers the last few weeks. Mostert with a bad fumble.
Yeah, very bad. And they were driving there. That was at the beginning of the second half. I do wonder, Dan, what do you think of McDaniel's decision to not go for 2 on the road in that spot, knowing your record against the Bills? Like, for me, if you're going to be the coach who's, aggressive, who's going to go for it, you have to go for 2 in that spot.
I would have, and I think he might have at other points during his career, but these are some of the things that happen when the pressure gets ratcheted up to this place where you've got Rex Ryan on television, Stugotz, doing this to Mike McDaniel, because it will make you coach a little less confidently when all of a sudden you're walking around on eggshells and your team is falling further and further back in the division, and all of a sudden you start playing safe.
With their coach, Mike McDaniel, who I know you have developed your new name for.
Oh, Mike McGenius.
Yes.
Yes, not so much. I mean, he's 1-8 against winning teams over the last 2 years. And, so if you're going to beat Buffalo, look, their Achilles heel is teams that can run the ball. All right, you want to keep that offense on the sideline, run the football. But that's okay because McGenius is a run game guru, right?
Right.
Except when you watch the tape, I'm like, you're doing zip. Like, what the hell are you doing? Here's our McGenius play. Let's just pitch it to the back and let him see if he can outrun guys. No blocking issues and all that stuff. I just think it's ridiculous. And this team right here, that's why they're desperate. Who cares? You think Buffalo cares? Buffalo's watching the tape going, you guys do nothing.
They don't care.
You guys do nothing.
Unusual for a former coach to give a current coach a nickname. I will say, in whatever defense it is you think this is of McDaniel, That's as well as the Dolphins can play, and I don't know what you want him to do about 7 fumbles in 10 quarters. Like, Mostert is running the ball. They're running the ball successfully, and he gets it punched out by somebody because all over UM and the NFL, guys are just running around throwing haymakers that start on the sideline, just punching the football as hard as they can.
That's odd criticism from Rex Ryan, because if the Dolphins have done anything good the last month, it's run the football. They've run for almost 200 yards in like 4 straight games.
They ran it well yesterday, 31 carries for 149 yards.
It's all they can do right now.
Right.
Chris, you're a fan. Do you sell? Do you sell at this deadline? I mean, Jalen Waddle did have that nice little bounce-back game that resulted in -4 yards.
What happened with that prop bet at the end of that game where Tua had
Tua's
a passing yard
It's
over?
a bad beat. Yeah.
And, did you guys see what happened with this? Again, I want to go back. Do you realize how absurd it is for an announcer to yell in the middle of an NFL Sunday as if there's a baby carriage on the field with an infant in it? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Because we're all sitting around worried. Don't hit him in the brain. Don't hurt his brain. Do you know how crazy it is to watch football that way?
I feel like if there was a baby in a carriage it would have gotten even bigger than that. Like, hey, there's a baby on the field.
Right.
He probably wouldn't have gone with, uh-oh.
He's at the 25.
I get your point. But it would have been like, someone get that baby off the field.
Would you agree with me that you haven't seen that before during an NFL game?
Well, last week we heard the crowd gasp, but this was the first time the announcer did it.
In that game, Poyer had a hit late in that game that brought penalty flags. Stugotz, this was something very frustrating to me in general about yesterday, even though I'm the person out here always caring about everyone's safety. The Rams and Seahawks have played that game for 12 years. 12 straight years they've been playing that game.
Yeah.
And in that game, you had a call on Stafford that I'm like, how was that a penalty? That is so punitive to go from what would have been 4th down and they're kicking field goals to automatic 1st down and 15 yards on a penalty that's just asinine. It's an asinine penalty. You can't do that. And so I know this happens every weekend all over the league, but there are these giant penalties for things that are just football. And this is not what happened with Poyer. That was absolutely illegal. And I think one of the announcers just shouted, "Calamity! Just calamity!" That Dolphin game, Billy, how mad are you at the Dolphins? Because we keep saying every week that their season is over and we're putting more and more nails in this coffin, because that gives you reason to hope the way that they play in that game, because they can play with that team, and then you lose on a 61-yard field goal.
And you're 2-6. So I think Mike's question is a fair question if you're buying or selling, because I don't know what the Dolphins should do.
Did you go into that game thinking the Dolphins would win? Because I assumed that they were going to lose that game going into it. And even I didn't even have a problem with the McDaniel going for the extra point instead of the 2 at the end of the game, just because there was enough time left that Josh Allen had time. So if you miss the 2-point conversion, you've given up the game. You've lost the game, right? And they were going back and forth where I think that you trusted if you could stop them, you could take this to overtime. It took them a franchise record 61-yard field goal to win that game, and it took them a Poyer, penalty to even put them in field goal range. So, I wouldn't second guess the going for 2 situation there, because they were going back and forth.
I just would have liked it because I thought that's what I was being sold when you told me I believe in my offense above all else. And if Tua's out there, we can run the ball and we're going to move up and down the field all game against Buffalo. One play for the lead, I would have liked to have watched that, but only because I want my coach to be maximum aggressive all the time. I understand why he would play a little more scared than he has been.
I want my coach to be Dan Campbell.
Guy's crazy.
I mean, yeah, but do you want your coach to be Nick Sirianni, who went for 2-3 times yesterday and missed twice, and then he decided, you know what, I'm going to not punt it, I'm going to kick a field goal. He almost cost them that game. I'm not going to push on 4th and inches. Nick Sirianni went stupid over aggressive and almost cost his team the game, and seems to be trying to cost himself his job.
Stugotz, there were a number of football things that I wanted to talk about, but Jacksonville losing that game, just being maximum Jacksonville, when we all knew there's no way Trevor Lawrence is going to pull this out. Sirianni is trying to gift wrap this for Jacksonville a number of different ways, and there's just no way that Trevor Lawrence isn't going to forever make that mistake at the end.
in that game, there were 3 plays of the year. Dotson's catch, Smith's catch,
yes.
and Saquon with the most ridiculous running back highlight you'll ever see in your life. There isn't a better highlight. He did something that you can't even do in video games. Video games haven't even thought to create a backwards hurdle. It's the single greatest highlight a running back has ever made.
The athleticism involved in hurdling a tackler who's not that low to the ground by springing butt first.
Amazing.
4 extra yards.
Yep.
Suggests a level of athleticism that's unusual. Guys, you'll grant me this? How many of these people can you say this about in that sport? Because they're making running backs disposable, and we can see, oh my God, Saquon, whatever it is that the Giants weren't the last year, wasn't his fault. And Saquon is one of the guys, and there are what? 3? Chubb doesn't even get to be one of them anymore. I think it's Derrick Henry and now this guy, which is your NFL football team, no matter how tough you think it is, in the fourth quarter behind Lane Johnson, they're going to wear you out. And Sirianni's going to try and screw it up, but they're going to run the football with a running back who's meant to batter you. And they said it of Chubb, and they say it's still of Derrick Henry. Is there a fourth that you can, for all the running backs that you love in the league, are there any that you batter a team with at the end? Because that's what Philadelphia is counting on.
Josh Jacobs, James Conner. I mean, Conner's good.
There's a different tier.
Yeah, it's a different tier.
Different tier. Stevenson, when he gets going, can kind of be that guy. Big guys with breakaway speed. But those 2 other guys, while they're incredibly fast, Chubb, maybe not so much anymore after the injury, but Derrick Henry, incredible breakaway speed, pull-away speed. You're not used to seeing that from guys that side. You're not used size. You're not used to seeing the agility from someone that is like Saquon Barkley, someone that, especially later in his career, has leaned into, I'm going to wear you down over the game. But if you can play that highlight one more time, look at the move that he makes before the move. The move that he makes going into that backward hurdle is also special. Would be a great highlight individually, but to have the presence of mind to even think to add a backwards hurdle to that incredible play, unbelievable faith in your body, and a body that's been broken several times throughout his career, to still have the agility to do something no one's even conceived of before, including video game developers. That is as unreal a highlight as you'll ever see.
What gets undersold is how he gets so drilled after landing too. It's just like every defender there just collapses on him at one time.
Let me ask you guys this, because I think we're watching something, and I've told you this before, how sometimes with aging athletes, Stugotz, if they're still wearing the same uniform and still occasionally able to do what they used to do, it's hard for the human eye as a customer who roots for them and hopes for them to see a precipitous decline as obvious as it is with Aaron Rodgers now. The athleticism in that sport, never mind Saquon Barkley, are you with me that there were 6 catches in the football games played over the weekend where you're like, that's some of the best athleticism I've seen from a wide receiver? One of them was a Duke player. One of the catches I saw this weekend was a wide receiver for Duke, where I'm like, that's an asinine catch that dude just
Garrett
made.
Wilson on Thursday night made a play that had me thinking in my living room, is that the second greatest catch I've ever seen?
It might be the greatest catch you've ever seen.
It was being compared to Odell.
And that game felt like it was a month ago. But Dan is right. There are catches almost every single weekend where you're like, and I don't recall a time in NFL history where I could say this, but where you're debating whether or not, is that the greatest catch I've ever seen?
There were 2 unbelievable catches in that game. There was an Oregon game, the former Texas A&M Aggie, Evan Stewart, made an unbelievable catch that actually didn't end up counting. The game-winning catch for the LA Rams at Seattle, DeMarcus Robinson, I believe, one-handed, contested, amazing throw from Matthew Stafford. I think this weekend in the NFL and in college really stuck out with the individual level of skill that we've seen in this sport. It's a beauty to watch.
And then the tight ends are mutants, so you're watching, and all of a sudden McBride's running in the secondary, or Gesicki's running around, and Joe Burrow's putting together a statistical game where you're like, oh, really, another 5-touchdown game, and that could have been a 6-touchdown game.
The greatest 4-5 team in NFL history, the Bengals. Huh?
Gesicki made a play. Gesicki made a couple plays in that game. He made an unreal catch where he landed out of bounds and it didn't count. But the skill from these bigger guys is we're at an unprecedented point in human athlete evolution to see all these things. There was an era in which we talk about the Dotson catch from that game, that Philadelphia game, for several days on end, and now barely gets a mention in an incredible weekend.
In the Buffalo-Miami game, Billy, because I don't know what people are looking at from yesterday and saying that's the game of the day. I saw that the Detroit Lions are right now putting together a season of expectations that has no precedent in their history, where Mike Tannenbaum is making people furious at ESPN because he's suggesting, Stugotz, that the Lions trade for Myles Garrett, that they trade 3 number ones, a 2, and Gibbs for Myles Garrett. And I know that people are laughing Tannenbaum out of the building on that, and Lions fans are saying, why would we do that? We're perfectly set up in every way. I think Jared Goff, I think over the last 6 games, they have more touchdowns than incompletions because of how efficiently they're playing on offense.
And he's completing like 85% of his passes over the last 6 weeks, which is crazy. But the reason Tannenbaum is suggesting that is because Aiden Hutchinson is hurt. So that's the one spot where if you're going to improve your roster, that's where you would do it. I'm not certain you give up that much to get Hutchinson because they've been fine without him.
Right. But I would say to you just independent. I know everyone thinks that Tannenbaum's saying that's insane. What are you talking about? But if you're ever going to be all in on a season, the Detroit Lions ought to be all in on this season. And if you think you're a pass rusher making you 4 plays a game the way that Hutchinson would that wins a playoff game, like you give up a lot for that. Maybe not what he's saying, but it's an interesting conversation to me that we're having about the Lions because, yes, of course, I want a pass rusher in his prime who can take my defense to something. I know my offense is championship good, who can take my defense to a turnover level that very few guys in the league can actually execute.
But, Dan, in an NFC, I understand what you're saying, but in an NFC where the Niners aren't as good as we expected, where the Cardinals are in first place, where the Falcons are in first place, and no one knows if they're any good or not, you have the Commanders, an unexpected team, in first place. Do you need to trade that much to get that guy? That's the only.
I think everyone would laugh Tannenbaum out of the building for suggesting it. It's why it's a take that took off. I'm just saying this is the best Lions team any of us have ever seen.
Yes.
And so whatever you do to support championship there, that mortgages future, like I'm not going to laugh at you because you've never been in this position where I know you're good enough to go into Green Bay and elements be damned. You're still not having any incompletions because you've got an offensive efficiency that's unusual and your coach is saying, what? I can have 4 downs to get 10 yards with this offense? Okay, I'm going to do that as much as I can. And maybe I lose a game because they did last year, Stugotz, in the playoffs. But he ain't going to play scared.
No.
He's not going to – he won't shrivel up the way that he'll go for 2 with his offense and 3 yards to get because he trusts his offense.
You also probably won't have the same offensive coordinator next season. It was miraculous that he came back to Detroit, said he had unfinished business. But Ben Johnson, he was asking for King's ransoms out in the open market. But
he'll get it now.
There is no way he comes back to OC your team yet again next year. So I'm with Dan. You got to go for it. Whatever. Cap be damned. Do whatever you can because this is a window that very few teams get.
Well, Dan Campbell last year also said after their loss, like, guys, we may not be back in this position ever again. We may have just blown it. So he seems like a guy that is willing to go for it when he has a chance because he told them after their loss, hey, we may never get this again.
Do you know how rare it is for me to envy a take? At this old dinosaur age where I don't care what anyone's take is on anything. And I'm like, Tannenbaum, you old fox. You threw some good chum in the water there.
He got disrespected, though. Like, the whole set acted like he said the most insane thing ever.
He doesn't care, though. It's chum in the water, as Dan pointed out. You just throw it out there, you walk away.
They overreacted. Like, it was not that crazy what he said.
No, I assure you.
Ryan Clark walked off set.
I assure you, Chris, that every show in America is laughing at Tannenbaum except us. I'm assuring you that is viewed as an asinine take. And what I'm saying is I looked at it and I'm like, salud, Tannenbaum. Well played. You realize what the stakes are on man, your guys get hurt. I don't even believe that Detroit will remain healthy, because why would I believe that anyone can stay healthy in that sport? But over half a season, there were expectations on what the Lions were this season, and they've exceeded them. That's never happened in my life. That's not a thing I've ever seen with Detroit Lions football, where it comes into a season with expectations and then exceeds them. My ass. That's been one of the worst franchises in the history of sports.
So you're saying yesterday Tannenbaum did his job. He earned his paycheck. And
it
I'm
wasn't
with
yesterday. I think it was Friday, but
whenever he said it was great.
Still close to my heart. Good job, Tannenbaum. You got into the take game. Look, you used to be a realtor down here. You robbed the Dolphins. You kept your career alive by just doing the snake oil dance of talking about football on television. And every once in a while you say a shocking thing. And every other time you draft Justin Herbert when the rest of us are looking somewhere else. Tannenbaum's good at that.
He is.
And the Detroit Lions, I think all of us would look at that football team and say, yes, that team could win the championship. And you can say it about – you've already seen how Baltimore is going to lose in the playoffs. Like, that's how you expect them to lose. None of you are sitting here looking – even if you like Harbaugh, none of you are like, yeah, the Chargers defense allowing 12 points a game is what I'm going to believe in the playoffs. But all of you are looking at the Lions and saying, yep, I can see how that would beat everybody. That's what they did yesterday in Green Bay.
Yes.
Because Jordan Love got some of that Trevor Lawrence money. Whatever it is your $50 million quarterback is he as productive as Goff? Because that offense is humming in a way that feels a bit Kansas City-ish, Stugotz. Like, it feels like Kansas City used to have what the Detroit offense is now.
Are you saying something's off in Kansas City?
I'm saying something's on in Detroit.
That game seemed awful to play in yesterday, Packers-Lions. Just like cold rain the entire time. Just
not for
awful.
Dan Campbell.
Just awful.
He seemed to enjoy it.
He had a towel around his neck.
He
It's
doesn't
like, hey,
care.
Dan, that towel's wet now.
He doesn't care, though.
If I had a time machine and I offered you a pass for whatever reason, and you'd never take it, Dan, because of where I'm sending you, but I offer you a pass to Super Bowl week, you think we're going to be preparing for a Lions Super Bowl?
I'm
I
rooting
don't think
for
we are.
it. I'm rooting for it. Why? You have them being upset by a Minnesota or San Francisco?
It just takes one game in the playoffs, and it feels like the Lions are a great team that are just something's going to happen there.
Well, then who do you trust?
Oh, I don't trust anyone.
Okay.
Just in general.
But then you can do that.
Principle.
Okay, but then you can do that to every single team because it's football. Because we're watching yesterday.
Trust the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Oh! Stugotz minor penalty, 2 minutes for Chiefs talk.
Made a sound.
You did just make a sound.
That's not fair, man. Overly punitive.
Life's not fair.
Oh, that's true.
I think Billy's got it exactly right, though. I think Billy's football analysis is better than everyone's on a Monday. You trust no one, except maybe the Chiefs.
Even them, I'm like, and my whole trust in the Chiefs is like, well, they've done it so far, and they're not doing it well. So, like, when they start clicking on all cylinders, then, like, they're really going to take off. But, like, they haven't yet, and they still look okay.
Travis went to the Taylor Swift concert on Friday. That's a lot of traveling this weekend. I know they're playing Monday night, not a Sunday game, but just if they lose this game, I'm looking there.
I want to play for the people the video of Jason Kelce walking through a parking lot during tailgating and knocking the phone out of someone's hands because they have insulted Travis Kelce with a slur. What are you smirking about, Billy?
I'm not. I have a take that I feel like is dangerous territory that I'm not sure I want to go down because I don't know if there's any coming back from it once I do go down said path. And I just want to – I'm still mulling over. Do you think we should go down the path, Dan? Because, like, I know how this place works, and it's like, let's put out the clip, and let's get everybody mad at Billy, and let's have all the criticism, and let's have blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing. I love Taylor Swift, all right? I've been to Taylor Swift's show before it was in Vogue. I went to Taylor Swift in, like, 2018. Now, how many Taylor Swift concerts can you go to in a year? Like in a calendar year? Like it's a lot, right? Like going to like every couple shows is a lot. And I understand the same argument can be made for Taylor. Like how many football games are you going to go to? And that's a fair question too. But like every week we're going to go to a Taylor Swift concert? It just seems like you get tired, like traveling back and forth. And like I'm not someone that travels every week like Travis Kelce is used to. I'm not a jet setter. But I feel like it's a lot, right? To go to the same concert. Because like the concert, you basically, if you're a Swiftie, you know this. Like, you know the script. And then, like, the big reveal is like, oh, like she sung a song that wasn't in there. Or, oh, look, her outfit changed from, like, a red snake to a gold snake for this show. Like, the Swifties know. So, like, you go to it and you know you're going to have a good time. But, like, it's a lot of work.
In Travis's defense, I want to be fair here. I'm criticizing him for traveling a lot on a game week. He did leave during Karma, which is her last song. So he got out of there early, beat the traffic, didn't have to sit around. Not that I pictured Travis sitting in traffic for these events, but I just want to be fair to him here. He did leave early.
I don't think so.
I saw a video of him walking out during Karma.
Yeah, but he went to the backstage to like hang out with her. He didn't leave to beat traffic. Like he was there with Tay-Tay the whole time, I'm assuming.
Okay.
You think he just went surprised? He didn't say hi to her, and then he left. And he didn't say goodbye.
I mean, I imagine
that?
he saw her before and was like, I got to get out of here after. I got to get back. I got a game.
I saw a stat. I'm sorry that I cannot find right now who to credit it to, but that the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls since the last time that Daniel Jones had touchdown passes at home. He had this weekend the first time touchdown passes at home and scored touchdowns at home for the first time in 670 some odd days. And in that time, the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls somehow. The Commanders have their best team this century. This is the first time that they're 7-2. They quietly win a game against the Giants that we now expect them to win on the road.
Since 1996, first time they're 7-2.
I mean, 7-2 is exciting when you've got a quarterback that you can trust that way to somehow be magically poised when I don't expect young quarterbacks to look magically poised. That league, though, Stugotz, is so weirdly special because there is not a circumstance that you can divine in any time in history or in the playing of sport where I want to watch that Tennessee Patriots game until you put Drake May back there running for 11 full seconds on 4th down and just farting the ball up in the air and touchdown Patriots to tie a game. That game shouldn't be on national television. That game shouldn't be televised at all. That game should not be watched by others. That game should be like played somewhere in a field where people can't watch, except for the last 12 seconds.
Oh, it was great.
Where Drake May runs around and avoids everybody for 12 full seconds.
That is a great loss for the Patriots, is it not? Because you found out something about your quarterback. He's good. I think Drake May has a chance to be good. But you circle that loss, Dan, come draft time, because it was a good loss from the standpoint of quarterback, pretty good. Gutsy team,
Adam Schefter.
And we lost to the Titans. And when we're selecting ahead of the Titans, you will circle that game and say, one of the great losses in Patriot history.
I will not say that. Adam Schefter is reporting that players now want to be traded to the Commanders.
Oh, get out of here.
That's what Adam Schefter is reporting as news, that they want to go to Washington because they fixed their quarterback situation. Are we just going to bury ourselves in football for the next 36 hours to try and hide from what's happening in this country? Where I saw a tweet the other day, it feels like America's just waiting around for a biopsy result, where all of us are just, and it's going to not come back tomorrow. It's not. I don't know whether to say here, Happy Election Day Eve, when it's not Eve. It's the day. You don't say anything is Eve if it's the day. I don't know if I want to say happy, and Election Day is not going to be Election Day, because there's no chance we know tomorrow all of a sudden, oh, America's fine, or I'm assuming all of us are at least a little bit afraid that there's going to be violence in pockets. So trade deadline?
I'm afraid Vanderbilt won't be in the college football playoff. The committee reveals its rankings tomorrow night. That's very exciting.
We're back.
There's no way they're in the initial one.
Body of work. I mean,
body of work. They're 24. Why do we do this with the SEC?
This with
Alabama.
Alabama.
They're just all right.
No, they beat Alabama. They beat Auburn on the road. They lost to Texas by a field goal at home. They're a good team.
We're in a dumb place with this conference. LSU is ranked presently above Texas A&M. They have one fewer win, and they lost to Texas A&M. That whole media covering that conference is so confused.
Yeah.
These teams are all right.
Stugotz wants anyone who beats Alabama to be granted immediate playoff access. The thing that none of you had, not even you, NIL expert, none of you were telling me Vanderbilt was going to be this year, where they can go on the road and beat Auburn, and they could play Texas close, and they could beat Alabama. None of you told me that Vanderbilt was going to be this.
Dan, if they just went on the road and beat Auburn, that would be a good year for Vanderbilt.
You know what would be weird is if we did a Vanderbilt season preview segment
I know,
on this
but
show.
But
I think the general spirit of Mr. NIL telling you that, yeah, there's going to be more parity. The talent is going to be more evenly distributed. And for the life of me, I cannot comprehend as Nick Saban goes on the most popular studio show surrounding that sport and touts this huge lie that the NCAA is telling everybody by saying, if you give us safe harbor status, we will protect the sanctity of this sport and restore competitive balance. That is part of their argument, that they are going to restore competitive balance. Let's all take inventory of the last 25 years of college football and realize in individual eras, maybe 2 or 3 teams had an opportunity to win a championship.
How bothered are you getting by the fact that insurance salesman Nick Saban lording over football still in voice and in lobbying is still out here on television without anyone pushing back on him, just bold-faced lying through his teeth in protection of the system, a system that ran him out at the end, by the way, because he was like, enough of this. This is getting crazy for me. Too many people are being paid. I'm going to go over here and get paid. How bothered are you, Mike, that no one's calling him on this, that he just skips merrily through your every Saturday, and no one, not on that set, no one anywhere is saying he's just out here shilling for the status quo.
Equal time has been a talking point on media outlets over the weekend, and I would really love for someone to push back on Nick Saban and present another side to this, because on the most influential show covering that sport, you don't have a dissenting voice. This is a majority opinion that the NCAA should not have safe harbor status. And it is presented as this outlier thing that is bad for the sport. And it's a terrible, bad faith type of discussion that these studio shows are having. Also, I need clarity on whether or not Nick Saban is actually a paid lobbyist or not. Because he's either getting paid to...
Smoke him out.
Somebody
smoke Saban out. Hey, Saban, are you a paid lobbyist?
I would ask the question, because he's either getting paid for these opinions or he's paying somebody back. I don't understand why we're not laying all the cards out on the table. And for one of the main core issues to be competitive balance, this is great. This is the most wide-open college football season in terms of who's going to win the national championship that we've had in quite some time. We've had championships in the NIL era that have featured Washington and TCU. Competitive balance is here.
Smoke him out.
You love to smoke people
out.
Smoke
them out. I want that. This is when someone is barricaded in their home, right? You start throwing smoke bombs in.
So they come out.
So they come out coughing. Mike, I want you to smoke out Nick Saban. Make him walk off the game day set coughing because you're asking him shouted questions. Are you a paid lobbyist? I think I have it right when I say, even though it's been 44 years, that the greatest call, the most memorable broadcasting call in the history of sports in America, do you believe in miracles? Yes, when the United States beat the Russians.
Yeah.
I am willing today to replace that with uh-oh. Is anyone with me on this?
I am.
I'll go with it.
Yep.
Are we in agreement that Do You Believe in Miracles is the most famous sports broadcasting call of all time? Like, that's, if we were to get consensus on something subjective, I think most people can reasonably agree on that.
Yeah. That Giants win the pennant. But
Stugotz and Roy followed you there. I'm going to push back.
What?
I'm going to go with Do You Believe in Miracles over uh-oh.
And
Okay,
I'm going to
you
go
can
with
push
a
back.
drive deep into left field by Castellanos.
Ah.
Folks, I'm not going to be sure if I'm ever do this again.
But here's what made it so great and why I'm with Dan. When the United States was winning that hockey game, I was not saying out loud or thinking to myself, do you believe in miracles? Yes. But when Tua took off, I was thinking, uh-oh. I was. He captured that.
Kevin Harlan spoke for a nation. Chris, can you just please play for me the single greatest apology and best comedic moment in the history of broadcasting?
Castellanos to lead things off. Jim Day's going to be taking us the rest of the way through this game as Holland takes over on the mound. I made a comment earlier tonight that I guess went out over the air that I am deeply ashamed of. If I have hurt anyone out there, I can't tell you how much I say from the bottom of my heart. I'm so very, very sorry. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith. As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game. I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset again. I don't know if it's going to be for the Reds. I don't know if it's going to be for my bosses at Fox. I'm going to apologize for the people who signed my paycheck.
It'll be for the CW.
For the Reds, for Fox Sports Ohio, for the people I work with, for anybody that I've offended here tonight. I can't begin to tell you how deeply sorry I am. That is not who I am and never has been. And I'd like to think maybe I could have some people that could back that up. I am very, very sorry, and I beg for your forgiveness. Jim Day will take you the rest of the way home.
We have big breaking news.
We do.
Yes. Tom Brenneman is back doing his thing. He's on college football in the CW.
Oh.
And this week, he has a big game between Syracuse and Boston College, which means he will be calling a game quarterbacked by Thomas Castellanos.
Oh, wow.
We get to hear Brenneman say Castellanos over and over and over again.
Oh.
This was the day that we've been waiting for when it got announced that Brenneman was returning to sports and he was calling ACC football on the CW. We all knew who was quarterbacking for BC. We were hoping it would work out this way, and it has. A momentous occasion, a game you're going to want to be at and have fancy new headphones like Dan has on his head to be able to hear the new feed featuring Tom Brenneman. And if you want to be in that building, let me tell you what. Go to one place and one place only. Game Time. Wow. That's right. Yes. Game Time, an incredible app. Do yourself a favor. Create an account and redeem the code DAN for $20 off your first purchase. We were talking about all of these great concert tickets. Secondary market, sometimes it can be a muddied field. So what I love so much about Game Time is that it makes it easy. You get comprehensive ticket coverage, the best customer service in the industry, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing. You hit one button, and there are no surprises at checkout. Chris Cody, what time is it?
Game time.
I want to talk some college football because Penn State, good God, man. James Franklin, are you always that? Stugotz dared to believe in you this year, and you just do the most Penn State of Penn State thing.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is why I didn't like the 12-team playoff, although I have come around to it. James Franklin is going to be rewarded even while losing that game, because if you look at their schedule, they're not going to lose another game the rest of the year. And I'm telling you right now, Penn State's going to make the playoff. So all the expansion did from 4 teams to 12 teams is give lousy coaches who aren't good enough to get to a 14 playoff the chance to get to a 12-team playoff.
I'm gonna get to some.
He's
of
a terrible coach,
okay.
Dan. He's terrible.
All right, Stugotz. The problem with terrible is there are some things off the field that he's done that have been terrible. Record-wise, he's not terrible. He's just always good enough to be the third best thing in that conference. And he did bring Penn State back from the biggest sports scandal any of us have ever seen.
Right, but he's not a very good coach. And he's always looking for the next big job.
All right,
he is.
Look, just you can say if you want that James Franklin is terrible. Certainly his record against Ohio State is that. He's lost against them the last 8 times. Ohio State has won that game 14 of the last 16 times. Ohio State is better than Penn State.
Right.
But before we get to college football and all the things happening in college football, let's play James Franklin here at the end of that game, doing what you have to do in this situation, which is hide that you've lost the game and fight with the fans, because we're now in the debris throwing on the field stage of college football 3 weeks in a row and fighting with fans.
You're going to be man enough to call. What's your name?
He's yelling at a fan, if you're going to be man enough to talk, what's your name? I want to know your name. And the kid just scurries away.
This is what happens when we confront them and they get mad. Jason Kelce is being celebrated, and I'm sure the Swifties love that he's defending both Travis and that he's walking through your tailgate or your party, and he'll knock the phone out of your hands. If you want to disrespect Jason Kelce, he's not going to abide it. So you can have your video here, and I don't know if, Stugotz, if there are any consequences. Jason Kelce is taking a lot of jobs. He's worth a lot of money. This kind of stuff would hurt Jason Kelce if he weren't, in my opinion, at this point, pretty bulletproof on just about anything.
Kelce. Hey, Kelce. How does it feel your brother's a
Immediately turns around.
Can I get a fist bump? Kelce, can I get a fist bump?
Walks up to the guy with the phone and spikes it.
Yeah, spikes his phone at his feet. I imagine most people took Kelce's side on that one, right? Just once you hit him with the slur on that, you're not going to expect him to just keep walking and abiding. But are you getting the result that you want if you're the person who's goading him like that because you get your viral video of Jason Kelce snapping?
You most certainly are. That's what you're going for.
I think you want a reaction. You don't want your phone smashed.
No, but you're going for that reaction.
But I just think he was
it's your moment and you're going for it.
He wanted a reaction, and then when his phone gets smashed, he's like, shit. Now how am I supposed to get home today? I have to Uber home.
What was the public reaction to the video going viral at the Georgia-Florida game? For one half there, it looked like Miami was going to have a more impressive victory against Florida, as Florida led Georgia at the half because Georgia couldn't stop throwing interceptions. But then Georgia, we're all expecting Georgia to be in the playoff no matter what happens, even if they lose 5 times before now and the end of the season. But let's play this video of this cop just going through the stands, showing this police officer just beating people up.
It's just, I know it's isolated video. We don't see what happened before, but you see one cop laying on top of a guy, jabbing him with his left hand, and then they pan back to a cop just wailing on this old man's head, the top of his head. It's just not a good look here.
Just beating the holy hell out of Mark
as hard as you can imagine somebody dropping a fist down on someone, that's what this cop is doing to this guy.
Did you call him Mark Hockman?
He's got the hair. He's got the hair. Look, when you this beating that's being administered, as much as I like Gators taking a pummeling, once this guy's hat is taken off to reveal that his head has been sunburned because he has the Larry David hair, that guy that is not an impressive victim to beat up once that hair is revealed.
How about that old guy still being conscious after that wailing? Is he still sitting up? Like, I would be out if that's just wailing on the back of my head.
There was another interaction like this where the cop was like using the handcuffs as brass knuckles and just punching a guy in the face. And like, I don't know what this person did beforehand that necessitated that force, but the guy wouldn't go down. Like, he just kept getting hit like in the eye. You see blood coming down like the side of his face by his eyes. He just kept getting punched over and over again with like the handcuff, his brass knuckles, and he stayed standing up. And I'm like, this is crazy. He also they tried to tase the guy. They shot him with a taser, and he just ripped them off. Like,
okay,
what?
Well, there was
that guy was crazy.
Wait a minute. I don't know if we're talking about the same video because this same police officer did tase somebody. It wasn't at this game though. It was different footage, and there was a tasing involving
the same cop
the same police officer
that was wailing on the old guy. There's another older video of him seeming to go to the taser a little quick with a guy who seems to be refusing to leave. But this guy, not the first time he's been tased, because you could just tell the way he's shielding off the tase. Like, that's a man that's been tased before.
It's almost always funny to see someone tased, correct?
Not going to put that one on the poll.
No, but I just if I tell you, let me put it another way. You're scrolling through video, and all I've put on the subject line is want to watch someone get tased.
Private moment? Yeah, I'll
yeah.
Just
Just here's a video of someone being tased. I don't know what the next few days in America are going to look like.
Hopefully not like this video we're watching.
The reason I'm laughing at this now preemptively is I'm apologizing for what I'm not going to be able to laugh at in a couple of days when video makes an appearance of police officers behaving badly in other places. We can agree, right? Even absent context, we can agree that that is not the way for a police officer to behave. And we can also agree that most people around that video are probably commenting that that's how that police officer should be behaving.
Using cuffs as brass knuckles? Yeah, probably not. Probably not police procedure there.
I need to know more, though, right? I mean,
but I'm asking you just I don't know. I'm just basing it on the sample size of what the last 8 years have wrought. I'm asking you a question.
It seems excessive.
Well, no, I'm not just asking you if it seems excessive. It's obviously excessive. It's
I don't know what happened.
It's without question excessive. Like, that's not police training on how it is you arrest someone, Stugotz.
Certainly not hot.
That is not proper police work. I don't know what you're defending, but I don't need much context to know the 12th punch, not proper police work. Beating on the back of Mark Hochman's head, not proper police work.
Yeah.
But what is the commentary around that video? Because I would imagine most people are defending the police officer behaving as the police officer wishes to behave. Do I have this wrong? Am I bringing my bias to it? I've got it wrong.
I think no one should really speak on it without the important context. It's a pretty dramatic video. And, yeah, a lot of people are taking sides based off of not having a complete picture there. And I'm not always one to give the police a benefit of the doubt, but I am literally jumping in the middle of him across the top turnbuckle, asking the audience to count several punches to this dude's face.
I am certain.
I'm confused. Do you think people are defending the police officer's action in the video?
Yes.
I saw an article where they were saying, if you see the guy's hand is around the cop's waist, and if a hand goes anywhere near waist, the cop has full right to just defend himself. So that's the only defense that I've seen, is that the guy's hand was near his waist.
Mark Hochman wasn't taking his gun.
That's fair. I'm just saying that's what the defense is.
His head was sunburned because he'd been out in the cocktail party all day. He'd been drinking since 9 a.m. He wasn't even not going down because he was conscious. He'd been drinking for so long that he wasn't going down under any circumstances.
But it's so obviously excessive. Don't you ask yourself, what did the guy do? What did the guy do? What did he say? What did he do? I need more.
If you must know my initial thought, I was like, on a week like this week, we really couldn't afford the races being swapped. Oh, old white guy involved, and he's not the cop? Okay, cool. We'll move on. We're past the cocktail party. We're into election day.
How are we covering trade deadline stuff tomorrow? Are we just going to bury ourselves, hide under blankets, and just bury ourselves in sports, trying to just squeak out, are the Dolphins a seller or a buyer? I Stugotz, wonder whether any of us can talk about what Bill Barnwell is reporting in that weird Saints-Panthers game.
Oh.
The Saints had 150 more yards in the game. The Saints had 150-plus rushing yards in the game. The Saints also won the turnover battle. When those three things happen, they've happened 275 times. Those teams before yesterday were 275-0.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers just won a game that's never been won in the history of the sport against the Saints. And that game, like Titans-Patriots, not in any way interesting except for that. The Saints started this season. Look at how fast football happened.
They were the talk of the league.
The Saints scored on their first 15 possessions and have lost every game since.
Yeah.
They scored on their first 15 possessions of the season. They alerted all of us to the Cowboys aren't any good. Now even Dak Prescott knows it.
Right.
Dak Prescott's wandering the sidelines, and people are reading his lips, Stugotz, and he's just saying, we suck.
Mm-hmm.
He's just saying it flatly because they clearly do. Like, there's not even any dispute for this. The fact that the Cowboys are going to Atlanta yesterday, and
it's we effing suck if you really look at what it is he's saying.
Yes, thank you, Stugotz. An important correction.
Yeah.
The Cowboys lose against the Falcons, and we can proclaim everything they're done. Yes? We can.
In Dallas?
Yeah. We can say Ezekiel Elliott was out for disciplinary reasons. When do you ever see that in that
with
sport?
him occasionally?
Yeah.
Specific to that player, you see him get disciplined occasionally.
He was a healthy scratch though, so it makes you think,
Apparently
right?
Didn't show up.
Deadline day.
No, he wasn't a healthy scratch. He was disciplined.
Well, he was healthy when he was disciplined.
He can both be out because of discipline and a healthy scratch.
If we're playing the transitive,
both right.
If we're playing the transitive property game, that Cowboys team got handled at home by a Saints team that just found a way to lose the first ever type of game like that in NFL history to Bryce Young. So I would say, yeah, they're done. And I would agree with Dak Prescott's assessment of the situation.
I love Derek Carr before the game saying, quote, "I'm not a savior." Has anyone ever spent a single second of a single day thinking to themselves, oh, Derek Carr, savior?
There were that 2 weeks where murder rates in New Orleans were down because he was performing well.
Derek Carr has now lost to every NFL team except the Raiders.
Oh.
The Carr family, one of the great losing quarterback families of all time.
At least Derek Carr could hang his hat on the fact that he wasn't involved in those other murders, but then he killed Chris Olave.
Right.
Are there any other families in this conversation?
I'm trying to think of who would be in second place. I think Dan is
cheap
right.
Rhetorical trick by me. They're rare as two quarterback brothers who get to play in the NFL and then both spend all their time losing.
The Mannings are the winning family.
The Olave thing was disturbing yesterday. I know they get out of that very quickly on the red zone. But I'm telling you, one of the funny things, dark funny, but funny, is my wife having just the faintest of tastes of football on Sunday. And every time she looks up, she's looking at me because somebody is being carried off the field on the shoulders of two guys, or there's a stretcher on the field.
People are praying.
Or there's a cart on the field. Right. And because she doesn't really care at all about football, she's like, how is this allowed to happen? Like, how this is so inhumane that they keep stopping these games because there are bodies on the field.
It's a great question. We don't have an answer, but don't you dare take it away from me.
No, I know.
Don't.
I'm just saying it's a funny thing to see through her eyes because even I, for as much as I complain about it, even I'm actually immune to how often a guy's down with an ankle injury.
You got to show her one of the good plays. Show her like a guard pulling one of these days. Be like, yeah, this happens too.
Uh-oh.
What?
You got that right. We have breaking news inside the NFL.
Oh, no.
Given the stats that Dan read off prior to giving the score of that Panthers-New Orleans game. Dennis Allen, who's proven to be quite a terrible coach, has been relieved of his duties by the New Orleans Saints.
Huh.
The Raiders also made an offensive coordinator change. We're at that point in the season when the teams start making some play calling moves, and all of a sudden, Stugotz, everybody was all gung ho on Antonio Pierce with the Raiders. And then when Minshew's your quarterback for a whole season, good luck with that. Good luck. You'll get excited about Minshew for a couple of minutes, and then you'll go 2-6, and your season will be done, and everyone will be fired.
Derek Carr has the most losses as a starting quarterback through 4 seasons, 5 seasons, 6 seasons, 7 seasons, 8 seasons, 9 seasons, 10 seasons, and he's tied with Archie Manning through 11 seasons. How about that? Derek Carr, savior.
Impressive you said gung-ho. Most people misspeak and say gun-ho.
They do.
Is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Stu's learning right now. It's not gun-ho.
I did know that. Yeah.
What were the games yesterday that got your attention? What were the games?
The Xfinity 500 in Martinsville, for one.
Not the endings or drama, close games, witching hours always going to which. I'm talking about the stuff that alerted you to how good someone is. We can now close the book, right? We're in agreement. The Buffalo Bills are good. Yes, hard stop. Like they're one of the best teams of the last 5 years. One of the 5
Josh
best
Allen's
teams.
really good.
He's good.
I don't know about the Bills.
Okay, but if your quarterback's really good, so's your team.
No, not always.
With few exceptions.
I can tell you what I learned yesterday and listen, they had a bad loss a week ago. They tend to do that. But Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, that team can win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
That team can win or
passer,
lose in the first round.
Perfect passer rating day, right?
Yeah,
he was
great.
unbelievable.
He's great.
He's throwing some absolute darts this
He's
season.
amazing.
He's had a couple of perfect passer rating games, and yesterday was one of them. He's putting up statistics that suggest a mastery that's unusual as they run the ball better than everyone in the sport. And they're beating a Broncos team at home where Sean Payton, all of a sudden, for reasons I can't understand, on 4th down is throwing a double reverse pass to Bo Nix.
That play worked.
I know it worked, but like what?
Good throw, good catch.
Yes,
I like Bo Nix.
You do?
Yeah, scrappy.
I was starting to see it with Bo Nix, and then that was a pretty rough game.
The Ravens can do that on any Sunday to any team in the league. It's absurd that Derrick Henry was available for 1 year, $9 million. They had the best rushing attack in the sport a couple of years ago in the sport's history, and this team is better than that one. But if they're up 10 in the 4th quarter, I still expect them to lose.
I mean, the Bengals game's going to be tough, right? Like, you could see the Ravens losing the Bengals game.
Yeah. Thursday
Joe
night,
Burrow
right?
has been good this year.
He's been great.
Yeah, he's been
Burrow.
great.
Watch out for those Bengals.
Isn't he the there are only a couple of quarterbacks who have 20 touchdown passes,
He's the dude,
and he's one of them.
He's
right?
the dude that I trust to go into Kansas City and to upset Baltimore because they can't hold that offense below 13 points. And historically, if the opposing offense scores more than 13 points in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson doesn't win. I trust Joe Burrow. And I every week I just find myself taking more futures on the Bengals to win the AFC just because he's got that it quality. I trust him. I've seen it. Proof of concept. Derrick Henry, by the way, who is available for $9 million, his yards per carry is now 6.3.
Crazy.
That's about 2 more yards than it was last year. He actually has, and this isn't a real national talking point, but he has a shot at his age for a 2,000-yard rushing season.
That's insane. There are 3 quarterbacks with 20-plus touchdowns this year. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield.
There's 3 5-touchdown games by quarterbacks this year, 2 of them by Joe Burrow.
Max Crosby is going to be traded tomorrow, right? When we speak of the Raiders.
Lions?
He doesn't want to be traded.
Owners come out and said pretty strongly that's not going to happen. I'm not going to. It's the NFL. Maybe someone gives them a Godfather offer, but both Max and their owner have been really strong. The second that there's an inkling of this stuff, they squash it out.
Have you guys seen games played, snaps played for Max Crosby?
He never takes plays off.
Never misses time of any kind. Missed like 1 game last year, and I think it's the only time he's missed time of any kind.
That's when I'll believe in the Detroit Lions because I think in missing Hutchinson, that's such a special quality. The Crosby, Garrett, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt tier. Hutchinson was right there on the precipice of it. And, hey, if there's a game on the line here, there's a chance this pass rusher touches the football. If they can find a way to grab from that same tier and replace Hutchinson, then I'll get off my I trust two coaches in the NFC West thing, and Detroit's going to be representing
Put
the
it
NFC.
on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Have the Rams and Seahawks been playing that game for 12 straight years? Can you guys help me with how surprised you were or were not on Geno Smith dropping back to pass, trying to tie the game, and throwing a 103-yard interception return? There are certain quarterbacks. I like these Sam Darnold stories, and I like these Geno Smith stories, and I like when I look up and Geno Smith leads the sport in passing and completions. But once that gets to a playoff game, I do not believe that will win in the playoffs. You can get here with your charming, quaint story, but your Josh Dobbses and whatever it is you think's going to win in the playoffs, it's not going to win in the playoffs.
Red zones, bad spots for those things. I was surprised, but then I saw he threw it to former All-American Cam Kitchens, and I realized
twice.
This is just a ball hawk.
Mm-hmm. But Dan is right. Geno Smith can only take you so far.
I mean,
right?
but that's what we thought about Jared Goff too, right? And we're saying that they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
But Jared Goff went
difference?
to a Super Bowl. Like, he's been to a Super Bowl.
Terrible interceptions in the red zone. That's the difference for me.
Well, one of the differences.
I mean, but Geno's had a great completion percentage. He's led the league in passing for weeks also.
Yeah, but he's still Geno.
Okay. I mean, that's what you would have said about Jared Goff too.
Maybe.
It's totally fair what Billy's doing. The difference is that the last 6 games of Lions football make us think they're the best team in the league, and I've been watching Geno Smith have that game for a long time on what it feels like is the 9-8 era of those Seahawks. They're going to go 9-8 every season, and that's as good as they're going to be, and it's as bad as they're going to be, and they're going to be the same team every season.
NFC West has a bad publicist because I think people think that division is bad when it's just hotly contested. I trust those teams to lay a number on the road against the Detroit Lions. We saw it in Week 1 with the Rams. I trust if the Niners, who get healthy at the right time, march into Detroit without them not making a move. Mm-hmm. I trust those teams. And I trust – I mean, there was a feisty Monday night effort when these two teams played, when Geno went up against Detroit.
Yeah.
I trust that. Kyler Murray running around in the backfield like crazy with a back door wide open. I trust this
All right,
team.
you know what?
I trust it to the division.
I love a good stroll into an opposing stadium during playoff time, but not with Brock Purdy. I know. That's where I have to draw the line.
Okay.
If I'm walking in with Brady, I feel good. If I'm walking in with, Patrick Mahomes, I feel great, even though last year I said that's the team that I want. But if I'm walking in with those guys, I feel good.
What
I'm
about
walking
Lamar?
in with Brock Purdy, not Lamar. But I'm walking in with Purdy, I'm not feeling too good. I'm
Purdy
feeling like I'm
led
going
late
to
in
lose.
that Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes.
So just to be clear, Stugotz is walking in with Mahomes or Brady, two of the best ever. He's feeling okay. All right, got it.
Yeah, maybe Goff.
All right.
I mean, maybe
Okay.
maybe
Maybe
Jaden Daniels.
Goff.
Maybe
Maybe
Jaden.
No,
maybe
just
Forget
Jaden.
got it.
Burrow.
Okay,
I
good
don't forget
analysis.
Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Joe Burrow. Feeling
This
good with
is
Joe.
the question that I want to ask.
Jaden Daniels.
Stafford.
Maybe.
How do you
Billy
feel
Gill.
about Stafford?
Nah, I don't feel
Dan,
great
how do
with
you
Stafford.
feel about Stafford? Did you
you're-
see that pass at Seattle?
Now you're walking side by side with Stafford into a stadium playoff environment. It's a playoff game. It's a road playoff game. How do you feel with Stafford?
Stafford has a great PR person.
Really, you feel fine?
People love Matthew Stafford.
Oh, he's overrated.
Moxie. But he's tough as
Hear about
nails.
Stafford, please. I want to hear about him.
Okay, again, way to go out on a limb with Mahomes and Brady. You'd
Burrow.
stride into the
Burrow.
stadium.
Burrow,
with
maybe
that.
Jaden. Yeah.
Stafford, too.
The thing that I wanted to ask
I
Billy.
don't know why I'm turning into Biden. Come on.
Josh Allen, is he on your list?
Oh,
Super Bowl champ.
yeah, Josh. I
Come
like
on.
Josh, yeah.
Joe Biden.
Jordan Love?
Nah,
He's played out of that? Oh, man, you called him the greatest quarterback in the NFL last year.
I did, yeah. That was then. This is now. I mean,
It is exasperating the way that Stugotz cannot be held to any opinion from week to week, doesn't remember what he said, doesn't know when he's contradicted himself. The thing that I do think is fair, though, in however it is that we talk about this sport, for however it is that we analyze it, is Billy's contention, and I want to have this conversation with all of you, that you can't trust a single goddamn thing in that sport. That you don't trust anything, you don't trust anyone. There are like 6 quarterbacks you might trust, and you don't trust any other thing in the entire sport.
I think Billy has a guy that he trusts every single week, and that guy is Justin Jefferson. You were telling me this morning that you thought he was so great.
I mean, he is good.
Right. You don't trust him on a weekly basis?
Not
his
quarterback, no.
Oh, well, his quarterback.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy's interesting. I wonder what's going to happen there because Darnold's going to get paid in the offseason. And the whole model for the Vikings is to draft J.J. McCarthy and have the quarterback on a rookie contract. But how do you not pay Sam Darnold after this?
The crazy thing about it is that, like, on everybody's list of quarterbacks you trust is Patrick Mahomes. And if you look at the stats, like, I don't trust him this year.
Yeah.
He's not been that great this year. He hasn't been Patrick Mahomes this year.
Mm-hmm.
But when things get clicking, Dan, the Chiefs are going to take off.
Yep.
Get him now.
It
Get him now.
It bothers me that Stugotz is saying that Sam Darnold's going to get paid.
He will get paid by someone.
He's going to get paid.
You don't think he's going to get paid by someone?
It just bothers me.
I know it does, but he will.
I'm just marveling at the fact that we can't get a dozen people who can play this position well.
The Titans could pay him. Oh, man. Imagine him in Tennessee. It would be a disaster.
In the world, that we can't scour the world, that ZipRecruiter can't find someone somewhere that can play this position so that I don't have to pay Sam Darnold and so that I don't have to watch Week 9, Flacco against Minshew, game with no stakes because everyone's hurt, and we can't keep 12 good we can't find 12 good quarterbacks, and we sure as shit can't keep them healthy.
So Geno Smith, coming off a couple of good seasons, just got 3 years, $75 million.
Yes, fine.
What do you think Darnold's going to get?
Fine. Pay them against my will. Pay them. And you're not winning anything. Okay, we'll talk all season about Flores and Darnold, and you're going to get to a playoff game, and in the first round after a bye, you're going to lose. Why? Because Sam Darnold's your quarterback. I'm not going to be talked out of this.
I mean, but, like, if you go by the results, same thing happens to Lamar. Like, once you get in the playoffs, things go crazy.
Daniel Jones got a contract based on one playoff game.
All right, help me with what Daniel Jones's halftime stats were yesterday. It seemed like a riddle to me.
He had 0 passing yards, right?
Well, he was 4 for 6 for a touchdown and 0 passing yards, and I don't understand how that happened. I think he was 4 for 6 for 0 yards and 1 touchdown.
Oh, he had moxie on that run, though.
But explain to me what happened. How was he 4 for 6 for 0 yards and 1 touchdown at halftime?
I mean, it would seem as though he had negative receiving passes.
Maybe a Jalen Waddle situation where you catch it and just run back 27 yards.
Yeah. He was 4 of 6 for 0 yards with a touchdown and a fumble lost.
He went 670 days between having a home touchdown. They paid him $160 million. Listen to me, Vikings. Over my dead body, do you pay Sam Darnold? I'm not going to be talked out of this.
I'm with you. He had some bad throws
You
last
guys
night.
can't come to me with 7 games that have surprised you, or 8 games, and come to me and say Sam Darnold isn't what I've always seen Sam Darnold be.
When is the sample size big enough in which you would say, I would sign Sam Darnold in the offseason? NFC Championship game?
He's losing in the first round of the playoffs in a home game.
I think Collinsworth said last night that it would take them getting to the Super Bowl for them to keep him. That it's all set up for J.J. McCarthy.
You guys have someone else paying him, and I'm offended by that.
Why?
The Jets.
Oh, no, he's going to get something.
Someone's going to get – there's a Titans out there. The Raiders are
Carolina should try him
He's
again.
not going to get 50 like Tua, but he'll get something.
I think Carolina found their quarterback yesterday.
Bryce Young got his second coach fired.
I felt good for him. I did.
He didn't deserve to win that football game. He still looks like a kid in a Halloween costume.
He's been through it, man. Give him a W. I mean,
I'm happy that he doesn't have to lose all the time. It feels like it would
Put that on a graphic.
in that
Dan Le
sport.
Batard.
I am.
I'm happy he doesn't have to lose all the time.
I'm happy that he gets to win one occasionally, but they did not deserve to win that football game. 276 games have been played like that, and that's the first time that his team, the team on his side of the statistics, has ever won that football game.
Did Wally Pipp the Red Rifle?
Maybe.
Because I don't know that the Red Rifle's going to get that job back. I mean, they have equal number of wins here.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Rifle I'm watching, and I see on the sidelines they say, and he's out this week, he and his family in a car accident.
Yep.
Hurt his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the game's not violent and dangerous enough that he's always getting, and he's also getting injured when he's off the field, and that's Carolina football. Will it be Andy Dalton off a car accident, or will it be Bryce Young?
I have a fun New York-centric little social media riddle if you'd like to play along with it. It's cross sports.
Really?
And this is the question that people were being asked.
Okay.
Would you take 10 years of Juan Soto on the Yankees, but also you need to commit to 10 years of Daniel Jones on the Giants at the same time?
Cross sports pollination?
Yeah, so you get him for sure for 10 years, Juan Soto, but you need Daniel Jones on the Giants for 10 years as well. Do you agree to that?
10 years
Can
of
you
Daniel
bench
Jones.
Daniel Jones?
Can he be your backup? That's a good question.
I guess he could,
You
right?
just assume this is dead money on your cap.
But he's eating up a lot of money, so your backup's not going to be like a super quality backup.
If I love both equally, and you tell me that I can stash him on my roster somewhere and maybe I can get hot with a rookie quarterback, yeah, I take that.
What if you have to start him?
If you have to start him,
If I had, if there's very few things in sports that break your spirit outside of knowing that you've got no shot at that position. You're not going to matter if you have a bad quarterback.
He had that playoff win, though. You never
He
know.
did,
Lightning in
yeah.
a bottle.
Second round.
Surround him with the right pieces.
Billy.
He's a reclamation project for someone.
Billy.
Oh, no doubt.
No doubt. He's
Someone
a
thinks
reclamation.
they could turn Daniel Jones into
Exactly
something.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Sean Payton, maybe that guy.
Yeah. McVay, somebody.
One of these gurus.
There's something about Bo Nix.
I mean,
you guys
put,
seeing this?
You put Daniel
I see
Jones
it,
on
yeah.
that Broncos roster, and Sean Payton gets to the playoffs with Daniel Jones.
Thank you. See? We already found
I
a
don't
home for
think
him.
Daniel Jones is that bad. In fact, as much as made of his contract, if you look at where his contract is now slotted among
bargain,
NFL quarterbacks, it's kind of fair.
Yeah.
I think it would be fair.
It's a good question, Billy.
You move Bo Nix out to wide receiver 1.
He can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's a good question, Stugotz?
The Soto question.
Billy doesn't believe a single thing that he has just said.
How so?
Soto.
Billy,
It became
Billy,
a
I'll
pro
tell you.
Daniel Jones
I'll
thing
tell
that
you.
you were doing.
Yeah,
I was
well,
struggling to
yes,
support. I
no.
started supporting, and then I was like, wait, I'm
No,
not
Billy,
pro.
it's
Still a
Daniel
mind
Jones enough.
twizzler, you know?
No, I'm going to tell everybody what happened there. Billy cares so little about every word that comes out of his mouth and keeps no track of the things that he says. So he just made the argument, and his heart wasn't in it. On you get Daniel Jones a piece or two here or there. And what, Billy?
That's true.
And what?
Second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, you make a little run in the playoffs.
Because you don't think
you get hot at the right
you don't
time.
think he has a receiver now, and you don't think he had a running back last year.
I wonder what
last
this
couple of years.
I wonder what this Daniel Jones would look like if Saquon hadn't been cast off. To be honest with you,
Not his fault.
not his fault.
Yep.
I mean, it
Billy-
is because he ate up all the money, but it's not his fault.
Billy, I'm going to demand that
It's
you
all Joe
take
Shane's
your
fault.
words more seriously.
Respectfully.
I need you to have more respect for the takes that you're giving. You did not have your heart in that Daniel Jones take, Billy.
Billy,
you farted out that take. You don't believe that,
I
Billy.
believe he's a reclamation project. Someone will pick him up and think that they can fix Daniel Jones. And if you don't,
You're just saying
you're not
words.
watching the NFL, friend.
You're not watching the NFL. I just gave you the stats.
Sam Darnold is starting
4
for the
for
Vikings.
6 for 0 yards.
Geno Smith signed a 3-year extension.
He's not telling you how to think.
He had a touchdown.
670 days between home touchdowns.
But on the road,
You don't believe a word you're saying.
I believe that someone will sign him. I don't think they should. I believe they will.
Daniel Jones has that Ryan Gosling thing going to him where each side of his face is completely different.
He's got a wandering eye.
It's just
Why?
not even lined up vertically in the same place.
Stugotz's weekend observations are going to be in a moment, but before we get into that, and before we get into what feels like a fairly giant basketball story, I heard advertised on Netflix the Paul Tyson fight in a way that called it a boxing mega event, the fight the world has been waiting for. And I think they also called it, if not the biggest event in the world, something very close to the biggest event in the world. And while I want to argue, because I hate that this is what boxing is as a spectacle, I cannot argue that I'm assuming that Netflix is going to kill it with whatever it is that this fight is, even though it's the silliest kind of circus novelty, even though whatever it is, that the size of the gloves and the headgear and the rounds, that it's not really boxing in any way. It's a 58-year-old guy against an internet celebrity. But I do think they're going to sell out Jerry's World for that. Like, is that possible that they're going to get 100,000 people there like you would for a genuine boxing match during the heavyweight age? Like, what kind of event is this going to be?
I would sound old if I said it's not possible, so it's entirely possible because it's possible. Like, Dan, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I actually think it's going to happen. I think he'll sell that place out.
Are we worried about Mike Tyson at all here? Or, Dan, do you still think he's going to knock Jake out? Like, how are we feeling about what's actually going to happen?
He continues to be an underdog, and I would not want a human being of any kind to fight Mike Tyson. Like, if I would like Mike Tyson's chances quickly against anybody, but I understand that he's a betting underdog, and a lot of people are worried for Mike Tyson in a way I'm not worried for Mike Tyson.
I'm curious to see how it goes. I think we'll all work ourselves up into being curious at that point, and this is really accessible given the streamer that it's on. But a lot of the wind got taken out of my sails for this when Tyson couldn't even make it through a camp without a health-related type of delay. So this is going to be a bit of a sideshow. Well, a lot of a sideshow.
I feel like we're going to know 30 seconds in whether this is going to be fun, sad, like just all
it's
fake.
Funny, that 30 seconds is where I worry about Jake Paul's chances the most. Yeah. I'm more curious about like 45 seconds.
Right. I see what you're saying.
A full minute.
A full minute of Mike Tyson trying to punch.
You think he just goes for it first minute? Like, let's just do this?
The odds are what the odds are for a reason.
If Tyson does not immediately go right at Jake Paul, punching as much and as hard as he can, then he will not win that fight.
If Jake is going easy on him, that's where the internet's going to turn on both of them, right? Like, this is all just a scam?
Yeah, what Dan is saying and Mike is saying, if Jake gets it to the second round, the fight's over. And I'm with them.
The way Tyson has fought his entire career, if he doesn't prowl and come at Jake Paul, even though Jake Paul has the size advantage, then you will know that Tyson has no chance in that fight. Where has that betting number gone? Because I thought when that started that Tyson would be the favorite, even understanding that Jake Paul, while not a top-tier boxer, is actually a legitimate fighter, can make a career as a fighter, even though it would be a very low-tier fighter.
I have it right now. Paul is minus 250.
So that number's climbed.
DraftKings minus 275 for Paul, plus 210 for Tyson.
So overtime, maybe because those numbers were closer the last time before the missed camp. But most people, Stugotz, I said at the time that fight was announced, I'm like, Jake Paul's an idiot. Roy knows what I'm talking about here. 58 or not, if you just watch Tyson train, nobody wants to take punches from the feet like that. Uppercuts that come. Nobody wants Mike Tyson charging at them at 58 years old or at any age.
I'm looking at the lines right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. If you're going to take Tyson, there's only one way Tyson wins this match, right? There's only one way.
Yeah.
It's by a knockout.
First round.
Yes.
Right. So instead of betting Mike Tyson at plus 210, because I don't think this one's going to scorecards, take Mike Tyson by KO or TKO or DQ at plus 350.
You could take either of them just to win in the first or second round. Like, if you're just like, this is not going to last long, however it ends. You get good money on Jake Paul to win the first or second round.
There's going to be an entire generation of people watching that fight having no idea what Mike Tyson was.
That is correct. It's going to be. Look, Mike Tyson fought against Roy Jones Jr. many years ago, and that was also sad. Like, wildly sad. But this is going to do numbers. Of that, I have no dilution.
I don't think it's going to do like Brady roast numbers. Like, I don't think it's going to get everyone watching this thing. I think it's going to do well for it's going to do better than most boxing matches do. I agree with you on that.
I don't know how much Netflix gives out that information because they tend to be very careful about that information and they just speak in generalities. Like they'll tell you that the Brady roast did better than any other comedy special, but they won't give you the specifics of the numbers. I'm assuming that this will be the biggest fight that Jake Paul has ever had and will be a wild success for Netflix as a foray into live sports programming. By any definition, if the Brady roast was that, I believe that this will do Brady roast numbers. It'll do better than Brady roast numbers. They can fill an arena. You don't think this will do better than the Brady roast?
I just think boxing is more niche than like comedy.
This isn't boxing. This is fame. This is circus. This is event nonsense.
But I think Jake Paul's numbers have gone down. Like, he came out of the gates hot, and I don't see outside of us right now. I don't hear like SportsCenter's not talking about it. I just don't know if this is going to be.
You've just got 2 demos is all. You've got both demos. You got 18 to 34, right. And you got the people who want to see, wait a minute, I remember what Mike Tyson was. And Mike Tyson, if he's charging at you and you're in the corner, whoever on earth you are, you do not want any of that. 58 or not. Like that's not something you think you can hit cleanly and hurt for 45 seconds.
Is this something that like an ESPN would be rooting against because it's Netflix and it's like another lane for live sports? So like ESPN might not cover this because it doesn't want it to succeed? I might be wrong about that. I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
ESPN covers best the things that they have partnerships with, and that tends to be pretty standard. They helped the NHL a great deal when they were partners with the NHL, and then it vanished from their network when they weren't partners with the NFL.
I bet First Take will have them on like either this week or early next week as like a hype thing.
Tyson Paul? I doubt it.
I could see them being on First Take. That's the only ESPN show I could picture covering it.
Because of Tyson, though, right?
Just because Stephen A. fancies himself a boxing guy.
Yeah.
Are you ready for weekend observations, Stugotz?
I am.
All right.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, just 96 calories, available for delivery. Dan, Tuesday night is one of the most important nights in our country's history, with the potential to completely change the future. Suspense, drama. It will be must-watch TV as we already are a nation divided by allegiances.
What?
Was that the word already? Was there an
already?
Was there
already a nation divided by allegiances is what I was trying to say. Hearts will be broken. Enough with all the polls. It's time for the people to decide. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, the college football playoff show is back. You excited?
Yeah.
We're going to find out the rankings according to the committee. I mean,
biggest story of the day tomorrow.
They're going to look over resumes.
Yes.
They're not going to, right? It's going to be 0 losses, 1 losses, 2 losses, right? That's how they're going to do it?
They're
the way
going
we've always done it?
Pick 12 teams.
Yeah. Speaking of back, Jameis Winston is back to being Jameis Winston. Saquon Barkley, best 14-yard run in NFL history. 12-team playoff this year. Don't forget. Reminder, it's 12th. Just letting you know. Tomorrow night's the biggest night in the history of this country.
You mentioned that. Yep. Yes, in the history of this college football, this great college football land.
Mm-hmm. Syracuse with the rare walk-off fumble recovery. Shohei Ohtani, do it without Freddie Freeman. Doug McDermott is a Sacramento King. Shohei Ohtani, do it as a pitcher. Shohei Ohtani, do it batting better than 100. Shohei Ohtani, do it for the other Los Angeles team. Dan, you know what the S in Shohei Ohtani stands for?
I don't.
It stands for the 6th or 7th best player on his own team. You agree?
I do not.
You know what the O in Shohei Ohtani stands for? It stands for 0 for 4 in the clinching game. There were 6 players better than Ohtani in that series. In the postseason, 6.
In the postseason? No,
Yep.
not in the postseason.
I mean,
In the World Series.
Freeman.
Not in the postseason.
Mookie Betts.
You weren't watching
That's
the
2.
NLCS.
Kiki.
You weren't watching the NLCS. Your Mets played in the NLCS.
Yeah.
You weren't watching it?
No. Anyway. Aaron Judge making 0 errors all year until dropping an easy pop-up in Game 5 of the World Series. He was due. Aaron Judge, allow me to introduce you to Bill Buckner. Yankees choked. You hate to see it. And by hate to see it, I mean you absolutely love to see it. Juan Soto says he doesn't have any doors closed and that he'll be available to all 30 teams. That had to be news to the Athletics.
How great was that right after the game?
He did not waste any time.
In the losing clubhouse, he's like, I'm open for business.
Yeah.
Any one of you teams who wants to offer me anything, I will take your hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm taking all meetings. It was so good.
But when he says that, he's available to all 30 teams. The A's don't believe him, right?
They don't, no. You got him, Stugotz. He should have said all 29 is what he should have said, except for Oakland and the Marlins. 28 is what he should have said.
To all 28 teams.
28 real teams, real major league teams.
That would have been funny. Congratulations to the Dodgers. All it took was the largest payroll in franchise history and committing $1.4 billion in future salaries to 5 players this past offseason. Taylor.
It was $1 billion, right?
1.4. The Padres were the second best team in baseball. They had them on the ropes.
They did.
What is happening to me? Freddie Freeman won the World Series MVP playing on one ankle and with a broken rib. Hockey player, except for the teeth. Those are not hockey teeth. They wouldn't be in his mouth. You guys agree?
They're good teeth.
Tip of the cap to one Bob Costas.
Wow.
It's a good run, man.
42 years.
It's a great run. Legendary run. How was Bob last week?
He's mad at Billy.
Oh. Why?
He thought Billy was disrespectful to his career. I think he said
Falsehoods.
Billy doesn't know jack shit, I think is what he said.
Interesting.
He didn't mention me by name. Dan's pinning it on me, but that's fine.
He's mad at Dan, really.
It's
I would
either
say so.
you. It's either you or Stugotz.
I said nothing but good things about Bob Costas.
Can't be anyone
I
else.
didn't say anything about him. I just tipped my cap to him. What else am I supposed to do?
He said someone around here didn't know jack shit about his career. That's what he said.
Dodgers hosting the World Series parade on Fernando Valenzuela's birthday. Goosebumps. Dallas Cowboys. It's over.
Does
Everything.
feel like that. Yeah.
It does, right? Belichick.
It is weird that McCarthy still has a job. I think we can agree on that.
It's also weird that the Falcons and Commanders got it right by not signing Belichick.
Belichick not having a job is one of the strangest uncovered stories in the sport. To go from you're the best, we all know you're the best, hey, nobody wants you.
Give it time. Ohio State and Penn State should have been played at night. C.J. Stroud, sophomore slump. C.J. Stroud leads the NFL in sacks that take you out of field goal range.
It does happen to him a lot.
It does.
Geno Smith would like a word.
You're right. Apple picking, overrated. Steve Martin and Martin Short have looked the same for the last 30 years. How?
True. Yeah,
How?
It's true.
They look great.
Yeah, they look exactly the same.
For those keeping track at home, Mike Norvell should now spell his last name with 8 L's.
Omarion Hampton had 5 touchdowns against FSU.
If you've seen one Penn State-Ohio State game, you've seen them all. Joel Embiid got into an altercation with a reporter and pushed him. A brotherly shove. Thank you. Death, taxes, and James Franklin losing that game. James Franklin versus Ryan Day in a big game. Something had to give, and it's usually James Franklin.
Often is.
Yep. Lincoln Riley, fraud. Dylan Raiola, looking like Patrick Mahomes, only works when you're not losing to UCLA at home. He's got to get a new act. You can't do this and be that bad. You can't do it. Because you're pretending to be the greatest quarterback that has ever lived, him or Tom Brady, and yet you're losing to UCLA at home, traveling across the country. It's a bad team. I don't know if that's traveling across the country now that I think about it.
You mentioned Lincoln Riley. They are 12-12 in their last 20.
Fraud. Yep. If you throw a flag, call a penalty. No picking it up.
Slippery slope.
Yep. Some NFL GM is going to draft Carson Beck. And I'm telling you right now, Dan, he will get that GM fired. Gunslinger. Dallas Cowboys. You had Dan Quinn in your building last year. Indiana. Little good news, little bad news. Good news, you are 9-0. Bad news, your coach is leaving.
They had their first deficit this weekend. They fell down 10-0. And then what they do? They won by 30.
Yeah.
Indiana's going to be a playoff team, correct?
Yeah, that's the good news.
But they're going to get in, right? I mean, they
play Ohio State still.
Yeah, but they can lose still
and still get in.
One
not
loss.
When you're Indiana.
When you're Indiana,
you don't have the luxury.
You have to be perfect.
You fall hard.
Yeah.
Really? A one-loss Indiana team might get in this year, though. It's 12 teams, guys.
They
Reminder.
Might.
Right.
You think we thought it was 4? We know.
It's a little aggressive.
Just a reminder.
It's a little aggressive for this first-year playoff 12-team format.
Because they have to beat Ohio State, and then they have to win the Big Ten championship, or they have 2 losses.
Yeah.
But you don't believe they're legitimately good as a team that keeps putting up 40 against everyone they're playing against?
I think they're good. I just think that they're not going to skate into the college football. It's a nice story, but Cinderella, it's about to be midnight.
I refuse to believe someone in the NFL is actually named Ladd McConkey. Army took care of business. Navy, it was fun while it lasted. And, of course, we thank you for your service.
Always.
Duke was up by 11 midway through the third quarter and didn't cover a 21-point spread. Bad beat. Oh, was that bad?
Pat Forty was gloating on Twitter. He was preening around. It was my lock of the week on the podcast.
Oh, 40.
How the hell was Miami a 20-point favorite, 28-17? He was preening.
Still roaming around, huh?
Old Pat Forty was roaming around preening. It was my lock of the week on the podcast.
Detroit Lions, buzzsaw for now. Remember when the Saints were 2-0 with the best offense in NFL history? It was a great time.
2-7.
Football.
The 2-7 Saints.
Football. Weird sport.
It is.
It's odd. Congratulations to Daniel Jones for throwing his first touchdown pass at home in 672 days. Speaking of congratulations to Jameis Winston for throwing his 100th career interception. I think he's done it faster than any quarterback in the history of the league.
Derrick Henry scored his 100th touchdown yesterday, and Jameis Winston threw his 100th interception. I feel like we should have all stopped and had big ceremonies, like confetti cannons for both of those things.
Don't look now, but Steve Kerr is actually coaching. Los Angeles Chargers flying under the radar. Injured Steph, no more Clay, and the Warriors are 5-1 with a point differential of 18 points per game. How?
Scoring 130 points every game.
I've never been more nervous watching someone perform the victory formation than I was watching Bryce Young. Wasn't sure he knew how to do it.
I'm happy that Bryce Young doesn't have to lose all the time. Makes me happy.
He's won 4 NBA championships as a head coach, and yet the first 6 games of this season has been Steve Kerr's best coaching job of all time.
Chris, why are you shaking your head?
This is a ridiculous take, but I like it.
I mean, 5-1 with that team. The most dominant team in the sport, they are.
Best job of his career, you said.
Yes. I mean, you know how many coaches win with that team?
7?
More. 7, though. You push back on me there. I think of the 7 coaches.
It's okay. We don't have
Thibodeau?
to.
Thibodeau win with that team?
Just keep it going.
Does Thibs win?
Just keep it moving.
Spo.
Just keep it going, please.
Kevin Harlan's. Uh-oh.
Harlan's?
Well, it's an apostrophe S. He's saying it,
Uh-oh.
he didn't read
Kevin
it
Harlan's. Uh-oh.
It's Harlan's. Uh-oh.
Kevin Harlan's.
He read it wrong. Yeah, you got it right, Roy. It's you're correct.
It was the greatest call in broadcasting history.
There you go.
So, if your team wins on a 61-yard field goal, guess what? You didn't lead your team on a game-winning drive in my personal record book.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, Josh Allen. StugottsBook.com. Buy it today. Jadeveon Clowney is a Carolina Panther.
I saw that yesterday, yeah. Kept getting sacks late in that game.
Shocking, right?
Yeah.
I had to look up Clowney on the Panthers to make sure it was Jadeveon.
Yeah.
It was. When the announcer said, quote, "This is Bryce Young's 3rd career win," I was shocked. Seemed like too many.
I'm happy that Bryce
I'm not
Young
trying to be mean to the kid.
doesn't have to lose
I
all the
don't.
time.
I disagree with that.
What do you mean?
You're trying to be mean to the kid.
3 seemed like a lot at the time.
Didn't you want the Jets to trade for him?
I did. And I still do.
Well, Anthony Richardson, if you believe reports, might
Go
be
get
done
him.
in Indy.
Why didn't the Colts use him in like short yardage situations last night? They should have. Terrible coaching. Should be fired.
Who should be?
Whoever their coach is.
Okay, good.
Okay, good work. Never has the microphone radio / podcast person calling for a firing had less weight behind it than Stugotz trying to have someone fired with no information, not even the coach's name.
There's plenty of weight behind it, though.
You've devalued the fire the coach. You've devalued it by uttering it with
It's my goal.
Yeah, it's you. Well, you have. You've succeeded. You have met your life goals of making the coaching firing, as spoken by a media member, less relevant than it's ever been.
Thank you. The Eagles are 6-2, while having only scored 7 points in the first quarter the entire season.
That's funny.
That's crazy.
They scored their first touchdown yesterday, or first points of any kind in the first quarter yesterday.
Football. Weird sport.
It is. It's good analysis.
Thank you.
It's good analysis
Thank
from
you.
God Bless Football. Stugotz says, weird sport, and Billy's, I trust nothing. I trust nobody.
I'm still, like, in the back of my head, I don't even – Mondays are tough. I'm still trying to figure out if I said Indiana's playing in the Big 10 or Big 12 championship because I don't remember what I said, but I'm like, did I get it wrong?
Probably.
Yeah. Green Bay Packers do it with Jordan Love. Rams should have known special teams were going to be a factor. Always is when you play a team coached by Pete Carroll.
He's not.
I was worried that Nick Sirianni was going to get fired after that win.
I would have fired him during the field goal attempt.
In the history of the NFL, no one, and I mean no one, loves special teams more than Pete Carroll. Name someone.
Mike Westhoff.
No. Ooh. Wow. Wow.
He does.
There's a second guy out there.
He lived
Wow.
for special teams.
Wow.
He did.
Steve Tasker? Anyway. Stevensville ISD naming their new football stadium after Art Briles. Hell are you thinking? Hell are you doing? Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Let's talk for a second about that Ohio State-Penn State game because, Stugotz, it's not just that Ohio State has beaten Penn State the last 8 times they've played. It's not just that Ohio State has won that game 14 of the last 16 times. It's that Penn State got a pick six and was inside the Ohio State 5-yard line twice without getting points.
Yep.
And if that last goal line stand was not, here's James Franklin it, here's Penn Stating it.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State then running the ball 11 straight times to extinguish your undefeated season.
Yes.
When you know they're going to run the ball. It's not like in terms of where it is that these teams and these programs talk about toughness, Stugotz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that beating an opponent can feel better than doing it that way in their house at the end, where it's like goal line stand.
Yep.
You can't get a couple of yards on 4 downs. You can't get a couple of yards. And then furthermore, we're going to run the ball 11 straight times to finish this football game. You know we're going to run the ball. We're going to use up all your timeouts, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Your crowd is just going to sit there and watch you be Penn State again.
It has to be a great feeling to do something. Everyone knows you're going to do it. The opposing team knows you're going to do it, and yet you still do it. Because that's exactly what happened yesterday. And you're right. No, Dan, that has to feel great.
It's not just that part, though. That part's one part of it. Because, yes, it feels great to no-look pass for Cooper Kupp in the Super Bowl when Cooper Kupp's your only receiver and everyone's trying to defend Cooper Kupp. But in that sport, to do it physically.
Yes.
It's not just that they know what's coming and cannot stop it. It's that on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, as you're in your home stadium with everyone rooting for Penn State's season to this time be different. No, it's not. Here is Ohio State being more physical than you on both sides of the ball in a way that is a physical manhandling, and then has at the end of the game James Franklin yelling at his own fans to say their names so that he can get mad at them, because he's been great, Stugotz, for Penn State, but he cannot win this game. This is not a
He never wins this game. He never wins this game. You're talking about imposing your will on another team. Yes, it's a bad way for James Franklin to lose this particular game.
What I'm saying, though, is where it is that this dominance resides on the people who have run college football over the last 5 years. Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. Like Michigan will sneak in there.
Yep.
But in terms of what's been the top of the sport for the last 5 to 8 years, it can't ever be Penn State, because they can't get past this team. They don't have an ability, not at home, not on the road, not with James Franklin as their coach, not with a running quarterback, not with the handing the ball off. This is supposed to be the most physical Penn State team. Oh, look what happens at the end. Not quite physical enough.
It can't be Penn State because they can't get past Ohio State, and it can't be Ohio State because they can't get past Michigan. I mean, it's crazy, man.
Michigan snuck in there also not being able to beat Ohio State.
Yes.
Michigan snuck in and won a championship, but the best team for a while. Man, Ryan Day's done an awful lot of winning and still feels pressure cooker heat because hasn't won the championship from the Alabamas and the Georgias in a way that will solidify him forever. I hear him talk after games. It feels more like relief than it is joy.
But I think that's what it is at Ohio State for Ryan Day. He's 63-9 as a head coach, Dan, and people still want him to be fired. He's 63-9. He makes the playoff all the time, and yet after every game, what you're hearing is exactly that. And you're right, because I sense it too. It's relief. It's not, hey, happy we won. It's relief we didn't lose.
But when he is saying after that game, that's as good a locker room as I've ever felt after a game. The reason for that is how it ended. You went into that place and physicaled a team that thought that they were on your level, and they're not.
Right.
And the difference in that game, you got to pick six, Stugotz. Your defense played good enough to win that football game, but at the end, on the road, when you've got your home fans hoping this is the year it's going to be different, they just run the ball 11 times and squeeze everything out of your undefeated season. Lucy was there. Lucy was ready to celebrate with Penn State fans. Lucy failed to deliver a home victory.
We got up at 6, drank 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, 4 beers, a shooter, some liquor, some champagne, mimosas. Can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah! We are Penn State! Thank you. You're welcome.
Hey Dan, it's me, Lucy. Hey everybody. We're here at Penn State, Ohio State, a top 5 matchup. I'm so excited. Look at this stadium. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's quite cold, and we got here really early to do a good job. None of the tailgates have started. So everything's going really good. This man has no shirt on. It's like 45 degrees out.
I'm sweating. I promise you I'm sweating.
How would you guys describe Ohio State fans?
Ugly, rude,
smelly.
Go back to Ohio.
Why are you here?
Yeah.
Bandwagons. I hate them. They don't have the spirit. They don't have the heart or the drive. They don't have anything that us Penn State fans have.
I lived in the state of Ohio this summer. It is a trash state.
So outside of Ohio State, what is the worst fan base that you have dealt with?
Celtics.
Okay, that wasn't the sport we were looking for, but I like the answer.
You want football?
Michigan.
That school up north.
Michigan, yeah.
How do you rationalize being like, oh yeah, we are proud of a national title that we cheated for? Like, come on, have some class. You know, Ohio State, Michigan, no good.
And the Celtics.
And the Celtics. I don't like the Celtics either.
I want to say to Will Howard.
You can eat a whole bag of Will Howard. Come on. Yeah, you, Will Howard. Let's go. The best student section in the country.
Who said that, though? There's no attribution to the quote. So Penn State fans are actually boycotting Big Noon kickoff today. There's college game day here and Big Noon. We walked by Big Noon with an hour until the show started. There were 2 rows of people. It was empty. They were literally having people being like, you could win $5,000 if you go to Big Noon. Please, begging people to come into the show because the fans are so mad this top 5 matchup is happening at noon. So they're fighting the power, and I honestly love it. Good for you, college football fans. You're in charge. How do you guys feel about this game always being at noon?
It's trash.
Fox can go itself.
Noon kickoff, biggest joke ever.
It just takes a lot of the energy out of the game. We're still going to show up. It's going to be raucous. Big games belong at night.
Okay, this should be the whiteout. Really. When was the last time we were playing Ohio State with this many stakes? Come on. Let's get a night game here.
Yeah, night game. This is very uncomfortable. I can't believe they make punters wear this. Have you guys ever heard of the Dan Le Batard Show?
No, but I'm very happy to be here.
Yes. What if I told you that's not the show we're on?
What is this show?
I lied. It is the show that we're on.
Okay.
Dan Le Batard, I love you, dude. Keep sending Lucy to all the big games, getting the primetime interviews. That's what it's all about. Go Penn State! We are Penn State. Thank you. You're welcome.
If Ohio State loses this game today, are we putting Ryan Day on the hot seat?
Yeah, Ryan Day's already on hot seat. You can't lose 3 to that school up north.
Now I've been a Big Ten fan for all of my life, and I can tell you that was the most Penn State-Ohio State game of every Penn State-Ohio State game possible. There was never really the question of whether Penn State wins or loses, but rather how would they lose. Not scoring on an offensive touchdown, not good. Getting in the red zone late in the 4th quarter with the chance to tie and having the worst play calling you've ever seen and not scoring at all, not good. Having a chance to go into halftime with the lead and throwing a pick right into the back of the end zone, which everyone thought was a touchdown, not good. Overall, I would say the vibe's not good, but here in Happy Valley, the fans are great. The stadium is awesome, the tailgating was really good, and you deserve better than James Franklin. If Penn State loses today, I hate to bring it up, what does that...
Stop.
I have to ask you a question. What does that say about James Franklin?
No, that's an irrelevant question.
I think he's a fun guy. He's a cool personality. I like the bald head. I like his goofy little run that he has.
I'm a big pro James Franklin guy. It's like a 3-point game, and the refs screw us over like always. Then, it's okay. We'll get them next year.
It's been 8 years.
This guy should be on TV. He's great.
Do you know Penn State football?
I
Have
do
you
know.
Watched us?
I have.
We're amazing.
What time is it? It's game time. This trip to Unhappy Valley was brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, use code Lucy, and get $20 off your first order. Terms apply. Ohio State fans, you might need that for the Big Ten Championship game. Penn State, I bet you could buy some sick wrestling tickets.
The James Franklin Penn State thing has always been curious to me because I feel like he does a good job there. He generally avoids losing the dumb ones. And, yeah, he loses against top 5 teams, but how many of those is he entering as a favorite? I'm genuinely asking. They're right where they should be. I understand why Ohio State fans are always frustrated with Ryan Day. I get that one a little bit more. You can make an argument that's the best job in the country, given resources, given location, talent-rich recruiting base, huge alumni base, great students. But Penn State, you're right where you need to be. You don't have a divine right to being in the CFP conversation. In fact, they changed the rules so your brand can just keep doing what it's been doing, which is be good, not quite good enough. That's kind of Penn State football. And James Franklin, I get being frustrated that James Franklin delivers on that expectation because you don't occasionally luck into where's the big signature win where we all think that the monkey is off our back. But Penn State is just doing fine. That should be fine.
He is 1-10 against Ohio State. He is 1-13 when facing top 5 teams. That's not fun. Penn State has a different standard, Mike. You know this.
No, let me tell you what he is.
It's hard to beat top 5 teams. I get it, but
no, I'll tell you what he is. He's Mike Gundy. He'll get you 9 wins, and he's always going to be the 3rd best in a conference that only has 2 good teams. Only 2 good teams nationally regarded. He'll always bring you 3rd best, and he's got a $56 million buyout, and he's making $8 million a year. He's brought there not just to resuscitate that after the worst sports scandal that we have seen, but he was also supposed to take a leap he can't take because he can't beat any of those top 5 teams.
For a big program, it's hard to recruit at that level against the other elite schools. I think he's doing fine.